Yo, sup? NY3. Holy shit. Alright guys, there has just been an announcement, confirmation for a second Yang card in Invasion of Venom. If you don't know by now, Invasion of Venom is the set that OCG is getting next week, and the set that we will be getting in the TCG in November. Now, this is going to be a long video, because this card has very high combo potential that I want to talk about. Also, a lot of this information is currently unconfirmed because the guys at Yu-Gi-Oh! Organization, they're translating this based off a lot of squinting and guesswork because the original card image is like 20 by 40 in size, as you can see. But without further ado, its name is Genyusei Botenko. They've translated it as Ding Long, Origin of the Yang Zing. Now Ding Long is son of the Dragon King by mythology. He's a dragon with 10 different animal parts. So it's kind of like some sort of manticore, but cooler because it's a dragon. We can't really see the image that well, so I can't really confirm the correlation between these two. It's a son of the Dragon King, but not within the mythology of the 9 sons of the Dragon King. So he's a son of the Dragon King, but not part of the 9 sons of the Dragon King. So the Dragon King must have been like some sort of hard out player with all these side bitches everywhere. Now, going into its stats, it's a level 5 generic synchro, 1 tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner. So you can make it with anything you want, however you want. It's a synchro tuner, which is very interesting. Light attribute worm type, of course. Stats are unconfirmed. Its attack is obviously 0, like even I can see that. Its defense needs a bit of guessing. Right now, with this image, it looks a lot like 2800 or maybe 2600. You're going to be making this guy with Swani probably 90% of the time. Swani plus Chiwin. So, it's going to have 3000 plus defense, most likely. Other times you're going to be making it with Jiaotu plus Bian. If you make it battle immune, obviously its stats are going to be pretty irrelevant. Jiaotu plus the Fraxi is possible. Any of the 3 card combinations I don't think is very possible. They're going to come up very seldomly, like 1 in 1,000 games. So we won't worry about that too much. We can make it with non-Yanzings as well, which is a whole topic of discussion on its own, which I might get into later in the video. But yeah, let's get into its effects. Here we go. Now, its condition is you can only special summon one of him per turn. Now, the same restriction as Ritual Beasts. No matter what you do, you can only summon one of these per turn. I can see why they put that there, because really you want to be summoning one of this guy per turn if you can, since it pretty much generates a +2 at least, just by looking at it. It has 3 different effects, all extremely good. The first effect is, if this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Yang card from your deck to your hand. They've translated it as if, so that would mean it would not miss timing. The second effect, once per turn, you can send 1 worm type monster from your deck to the graveyard. This card's level becomes the same as that of the monster sent to the graveyard to activate this effect. Pretty interesting. Alright, the number 3 effect, if this face-up card leaves the field, you can add 1 Yang monster from your deck to your hand. Again, they translated this as if, so this would not miss timing, which is very sensible, because if it was not a if it was a when, that means if you synchro with it, you would not get this effect. So, although these are not confirmed, I'm pretty sure they got this one spot on. Because what's the point of giving a synchro tuner a grave effect? Alright, so let's tackle these effects one at a time. Now let's start off with the number 2 effect, which is our Foolish Burial effect for a worm type, since it's pretty much the odd one out. Now, realistically in a Yang deck, with the current card pool, you can modulate it from anywhere between level 1 and 6. The cool thing is, even if you don't run the Tao Tai, you can still make it level 5 by not using this effect because it's originally level 5. If you go into the other worm monsters we currently have, we can also make it level 7 or level 8 tuner. So, having a high level tuner like level 7 or level 8 or 5 and 6 definitely gives it some interesting options to go into Ultimaya. If you go up to level 8, not only do you have your rank 8 place, you can also summon Bishbalkan off this. I'm not sure if they would be extremely good uses for this card. But yeah, going up to level 7 or 8 currently requires you to run some random as worms. Now, Foolish Bureau effects are generally extremely good, but right now with the worm card pool, there isn't really like a worm that triggers in the graveyard apart from Chiwin. But yeah, Konami is gonna have to be pretty careful about the worms they release after they've released this. If you just release like a worm type trick clown, for example, this effect is going to be pretty insane. But yeah, so right now, the only thing you can send to get a +1 with this effect is Chiwin. If you send anything else, you don't get a +1, but you do get great level modulation ability. Especially towards the lower levels, having a low level Synchro tuner opens up some pretty neat plays. Such as summoning Quasar and whatnot. I probably won't run Quasar. The thing I am most interested in summoning with this is going to be Stardust Warrior. Stardust Warrior solves some problems that the deck had before, and that is taking the Max C challenge against Pendulums, for example. Nothing we can make can really stop a Pendulum summoning. We can stop spells, we can stop traps, we can stop monster effects. We have Divine Strike, which is like an Infernity Barrier, but none of these stops a Pendulum summon for 5. So we could put Stardust Warrior on the field along with our lockdown fields. Being able to negate summons is a huge asset, and it's very easy to make. Like if you just make a Baxia, and you drop a Jiaotu with this guy's effect, making him a level 2 Synchro tuner, you can tune it with the Baxia, and you get Stardust Warrior, just like that. So this guy definitely adds some new combos already, which I will probably work after all these effects are confirmed. The other thing is it's a higher level light tuner. Now, Chaos Chaofeng was a very difficult Chaofeng to make before, and by Chaos Chaofeng I mean a Chaofeng with both dark and light under it. You look at the current format, there's Cosmos, which are light and dark, there's Monarchs, which are light and dark, and there's Burning Abyss, which are also light and dark. Now, if you make a mono light Chaofeng against the meta, it's probably going to get wrecked by an Erebus or a PK Breaksword, or just like a Dark Destroyer. If you make a mono dark Chaofeng, which is also pretty easy to do, you're just going to get they're gonna get their Dante Mills and just wreck you. They're gonna summon their ideas, they're gonna summon their ethers and just not care at all. Or they could use their light pilots, tag into a big ship like a Dark Destroyer or a Forerunner and just run you over. Not very good. The best Chaofeng right now to make is the Chaos Chaofeng, so you have to make it with both light and darks on it. And the only way to do that really is Chiwin, Tao Tai Bian, or some really awkward combination like that. With this guy, you can make the Chaos Chaofeng whenever you want to, pretty much. And since it modulates its own level, it just becomes that much easier. You could turn this guy into a level 2 and tune it with a Yazi, and there, light and dark Chaofeng. There's also a new Crystron Synchro in the set, Invasion of Venom. It's a level 9 Synchro that requires a Synchro tuner and any non-tuner. So this guy can make that as well, which is very devastating on the opponent's turn because that Synchro reads when it's Synchro summoned, you can banish all spell traps your opponent controls or something along those lines. And since all of our Yangzing non-tuners are able to quick synchro against Pendulum decks, they set up their scales. You can quick synchro into that, banish their scales. Pretty powerful. Against the Mize decks, they set 5 and then you can quick synchro into that and banish all of their back row. they don't really have the option of not setting all their back row, since if they play Demise, they're going to be discarding their whole hand anyways, so it's a lose-lose situation for them. I mean, I just talked about one of its effects, and the video is already this long. But yeah, effects 1 and 3 kind of go hand in hand. So if you special summon it, you get to add a Yang Zing card, and if it leaves the field, you can add one Yang Zing monster. Like, I'm super glad that they didn't make this the other way around, because that would be absolutely nuts to be able to search a monster and then a card. But since you have to search a card and then a monster, it makes it much less stupid. Now, a bit of ruling about when this face-up card leaves the field. If it gets shuffled into the extra deck by Castell, you would still get to trigger its effect. Pretty cool. A bit of ruling about if this card is special summoned. Now, I said it wouldn't miss timing. So for example, your opponent activates Upstart Goblin, you change Suani's effect to Synchro with your Chiwen into this guy. Since it's a if you can, you still get to add your Yang Zing card. If it was a when you can, you wouldn't in that situation. Now, the interesting thing comes in here is, as the wording stands, this card would be much weaker in North America than in Europe because of ruling differences. So in North America, if they activate Dark Hole against your board of Suani and Chiwen, even if you quick synchro into this, you would miss the timing to get this add one Yang Zing card when it's special summoned, if it's special summon effect. However, in Europe, if they Dark Hole your field of Chiwen and Suani, you can quick synchro into this guy. The field gets blown up by Dark Hole, and you would get both of its search effects. Add one Yang Zing card from your deck to your hand and one Yang Zing monster because it left the field, they Dark Holed it. So you get both effects in that scenario in Europe rulings, whereas in North America rulings you would only get the if this card leaves the field effect and not the if this card is special summon effect. But anyways, the combo possibilities. Now, if this card is special summoned, you can add one Yang Zing card from your deck to your hand. What Yang Zing cards do you want to be adding? Well, let's just start with the basics. So, in a very simplified game state, say you have a Big C on the field and a Chiwen in the graveyard. Your opponent isn't dumb to attack into that setup. It's your turn. You crash the Big C into their monster, for example. You summon the Chiwen from the graveyard and you summon a Yang Zing from your deck. Before this card existed, what was the best thing we could do? Well, we could get a Zephranu from the deck, Synchro for a 7, such as Yazi. Not a bad play. You have an untargetable monster and you've set up your extra deck for future pendulum summons because you put a Zephranu there. No, that's not bad. That's about the extent of that setup. We can crash our Big C. The other things we can do? If we really needed more cards, we might crash our Big C, get a Zephranu in attack mode, crash our Zephranu, search a Yang Zing path, Yang Zing path, try to recover ourselves into the game. What can we do when we get this card in that exact same scenario? Crash our Big C, get a Suani from the deck and the Chiwen from the graveyard. Main phase 2, Synchro summon into this guy, add one Yang Zing card. If we have enough in the graveyard for path, we add path. If we haven't normal summoned, we can add a Bian, normal summon that Bian. We have a level 5 and a level 3 on the field, both worms. Synchro into Baxia spin 2. This guy's effect is going to trigger because it left the field, and then you can add another Yang Zing monster from your deck to your hand. That's insane. You're recovering from nothing out of nowhere into like how many resources, The recovery potential of this card is amazing. Now, what can this card accomplish for us in a slightly more complicated scenario? Now, say if you're going for the combo, the Jiaotu, 2 Yang Zings, high skill, low skill combo. Except we opened 4 Yang Zings, Jiaotu 3 Yang Zings, and only one of the scales. We can't do the full combo, and we don't have a field spell to search it, and if we don't have a field spell, we can't Ancient Fairy for more scales. So we're stuck with no scales. And let's just dumb it down a little so that we're not discarding Chiwen or anything crazy off Jiaotu. we're just discarding 2 Yang Zings off the Jiaotu. We're going to go ahead and special summon a Zephyr and another Yang Zing. We're going to Synchro into Baxia. Baxia is going to pop our other Yang Zing to summon Jiaotu from the grave. Our other Yang Zing is going to summon Bian from the deck. Well, it doesn't have to be Bian since we're setting up a pendulum summon later on, so we might as well summon a Zefraxi from the deck actually. Synchro our Zefraxi and Jiaotu for this guy. And here, we add 1 Yang Zing card from our deck to our hand. So if we already have 1 scale, this is what we can use to search the other scale and continue our combo. You know, we just put a Zefraxi and a Zephyr into the extra deck with this combo. Now, if we open no scales, if we just open Jiaotu and 2 discards, make Baxia, make this guy of the Jiaotu, we're going to add one of our scales. We're going to dump most likely a Chiwen or a Jiaotu to make it level 1 or 2. Synchro it off with our Baxia, and then we can add the other scale, like 3 card combos. Since the first effect adds Yang Zing cards, we don't even need to be adding monsters or scales. We could be adding Yang Zing paths to generate masses of advantage. It doesn't search Zephyr spell or traps, but it can search Yang Zing spell or traps, so that counter trap that I mentioned in the previous video, which is also coming out in this set, we can add that. So again, in the same scenario, Jiaotu 2 discards with 1 of the scales in your hand. Jiaotu summons Baxia and this guy. This guy is going to add the counter trap. It's going to add the Yang Zing counter trap to your hand. We're going to decrease this guy to either level 1 or 2. Let's just say level 2. I'm going to Synchro off into Stardust Warrior to negate your opponent's summons. This guy's effect is going to trigger to add the other scale. Or maybe instead of adding the counter trap and a scale, we could add another Jiaotu and a scale. So we can set our scales, pendulum summon our Jiaotu and our Zephyr and our Zefraxi. Zephyr can search the counter trap for us, so we're going to go ahead and set that. And then we can Synchro off Jiaotu and Zephyr for even more plays. We can make Baxia continue the plays, especially if the 5th card in your hand was another Yang Zing that you pendulum summoned. We could go straight to Void Ogre. I mean, just from, resolving a Jiaotu with 1 of the scales is going to end in a counter trap, a Void Ogre, and Stardust Warrior. I mean, that's amazing for a 4 card combo. This card just lets you do so much with so little resources. Before, if we didn't have 4 or 5 combo pieces in our hands to make these unbreakable boards, we just couldn't make these unbreakable boards. But now we can do it with just 3 cards very easily. So in that sense, consistency has been increased, because instead of needing 5 relevant cards, we could do it with as little as just 3 relevant cards with the addition of this guy. Yang Zing Path becomes the easiest thing to resolve as well. This guy searches Yang Zing Path very efficiently, and it fuels it very efficiently as well with its Foolish Burial effect. So these are just some preliminary thoughts of what I think this card brings to the table for the combo variants of the deck. Being able to do more with little, and being able to access cards such as Stardust Warrior is very amazing. Slightly improves consistency for the combo variants, however the problem still lies in the fact that in a typical Yang Zing deck, you can't make this guy turn 1 without resolving Jiaotu. And being an extra deck monster, it obviously is not going to help you resolve Jiaotu. And you still can get that 1 Jiaotu play valid. However, it does offer great recovery if something such as getting that 1 Jiaotu valid does happen. Or maybe you could even go for the pendulum summon first. Don't even need to resolve Jiaotu. Don't need to take the risk of going up against Vela. You could just pendulum summon your monsters, summon this guy, +2 right off the bat, and out advantage your opponent just like that for a more conservative approach. Although that does mean you have to open the pendulum scales and sacrifice the potential blowout win just to play around Vela. But I think you can actually afford to play around Vela with search effects this powerful. Now, what does this bring to the table for the more controlled versions of the deck? Now, kind of like Ritual Beast, it has a very similar restriction as the Ritual Beast. You often see Ritual Beast players activate Ambush on your opponent's end phase. This bypasses the one special summon because you're special summoning them on your opponent's turn, giving you more special summons of these cards than you should have. And Yang Zings can do something similar because the Yang Zings have quick Synchro effects, so you can summon one of these on your turn, search a Yang Zing card. On your opponent's turn, quick Synchro using this guy, search a Yang Zing monster, potentially into another one of these guys, search another Yang Zing card. And when they kill this guy, search another Yang Zing monster. So you just got 4 searches, 1 on your turn, 3 on their turn. When it's your turn again, with all those searches, one of them is probably Jiaotu and 2 of them has to be Yang Zing cards, right? Resolve your Jiaotu, summon another one of these, get your search. Synchro using this into something bigger, get another search. That's already plenty of advantage to overwhelm your opponent. And since it says if this card is special summoned, not if this card is synchro summoned, go ahead and play Call of the Haunted. The more control variants of this deck, quick synchro with this on your opponent's turn into a Baxia, get a search, spin 2. During their end phase, flip Call of the Haunted, bring this guy back, get another search on your turn, Foolish Burial something, get the right level, synchro into something big, get another search. So the number of this card you want to be running in the extra deck, as you know, extra deck space is already extremely tight, but the number of this guy you want to be running again is very open-ended. It can be 1, 2, or 3 copies of this in the extra deck, just depending on how you build the deck. You want to be summoning this guy every turn on your turn as well as your opponent's turns. Path is a card. This does search path, so it can recycle them. It can recycle itself essentially quite easily. So probably you don't want to be running 3 unless you have the space. If you're running Call of the Haunteds to recycle this guy, to special this guy on your opponent's turn, then you can get away with running less, like just 1 copy even. So this card and not only control decks, I feel like this card can potentially create a whole new playstyle for the Yang Zing deck. So I think this card can be the birth of aggro Yang Zings. Now the problem with combo Yang Zings is, well, not exactly a problem, but it's just a playstyle. We never win by out-advantaging our opponents. The only way we could out-advantage our opponents is by resolving creation multiple times turn after turn, but that's not very reliable and very slow. This guy gives a playstyle in which your win condition can be out-advantaging opponents. So you start with 5 cards in your hand, you combo out, and you still end with, on average, 5 cards on the field and none in your hand. Now, amongst these 5 cards, you're going to have 3 or 4 cards that negate. Now, of course, each card that you negate is taking away a resource from your opponent. So instead of you gaining advantage, you're summoning a bunch of monsters to make your opponent lose advantage. Baxia even. Now, summoning Baxia does give you a bit of advantage, especially if you pop a Yang Zing. It gives you a +1 right there. Baxia's main value comes from shuffling your opponent's card back into the deck, taking away advantage from your opponent. So in a way, it is out-advantaging your opponent, but not by gaining cards. It's by taking cards away from them. Now this guy, in the examples that I used previously, is able to create a playstyle where you just have too many cards for your opponent to deal with. Every turn, you're going to be getting a +2 with this card. And on your opponent's turn, with our quick synchro effects to summon this card, or use this card as a synchro material, we're going to be getting +2s on their turn as well. So in my previous example, between the start of your turn and the start of your next turn, you are going to be getting 4 searches with this card. One of them is probably going to be Path, so essentially a +5 in terms of hand advantage. You can spam the new counter trap with this as well. So it's not going to be a hand of 5 monsters. It's going to be a hand of 3 monsters, a counter trap, and something else. So these are all very relevant pluses. So it could potentially be the birth of a new Yang Zing playstyle, a third Yang Zing playstyle. I mentioned the choke point before, being this guy being difficult to make without resolving a Jiaotu, but because it's generic, one tuner plus one or more non-tuners, we could potentially find an engine that has nothing to do with Yangzings at all. It could just be a good synchro engine. It could even be plants. It could even be 6 samurais, You just run a good engine for making level 5 synchros that is very cost efficient. If there's a way to make this guy using only 1 or 2 cards, maybe it's worth it. For example, you normal summon your Jiaotu, discard 2 Yangzings, you get Veilered. But maybe this new build of Yangzings runs E-Tele. You E-Tele, summon a level 3 non-tuner, synchro your Jiaotu and your level 3. For this guy, you just got a +2 back. And you're back into the game. No questions asked. Like, they took a neg1 with their Veiler. You make this guy, you're probably gonna be both on 4 cards, you might even be on 5 cards, depending on what else you have. This guy being generic actually opens up a lot of options. Like, every one of these effects open up a lot of possibilities. The first and third effect opens up a lot of internal possibilities, making the archetype stronger than ever. Being generic opens up possibilities. Being a synchro tuner opens up possibilities. The second effect, dumping worms, is not a very strong effect right now, but every worm that Konami will release from now on, every worm that has a graveyard effect, those are even more possibilities right there. So this is just overall a very open-ended card. Even in terms of design, like, you give an archetype a synchro tuner, it might even be a gateway that they're telling us in a future set we're going to get an Excel synchro. We're going to get, like, they've released all these Sons of the Dragons. Maybe we'll get a big boss, Father Dragon at the end, the Dragon King. Now, as for his release in Invasion of Venom, it was not impossible, it just felt very unlikely. I'm sure a lot of you people might be asking, is the possibility of Yangzings getting a 3rd card in this set possible? The possibility is still there as of right now. How to read set clues about what they're going to release, I'll just go over it briefly. I'll try not to take long on this to explain why I think the possibility for a 3rd Yangzing card still exists. So usually from 1 to 80 is the core set. Everything beyond 80 are going to be exclusives or imports. But starting from the top at, set number, like Invasion of Venom 001, starting from 001, they do the monsters first, and then the rituals, and then the fusions, and then the synchros, and then the exceeds, and then the spells, and finally, towards the end, like towards 80, they start doing the traps. Now within these sets, so within the monsters, the first monsters, in terms of number, like the lower numbers are going to be anime cards, and then after that comes the new archetypes. After that comes the support for old archetypes. After that is going to be the generic monsters, and then after the generic monsters are going to be are going to be rituals. They follow the same pattern, so anime, and then new archetypes, and then old archetypes, and then generic ones. After that is going to be fusions following the same pattern, and they never go out of order. So we can determine if it's possible or not to get more support. So we're just gonna look at the current Invasion of Venom list. Half of these cards has not been released yet, but going down the list, we know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're gonna be Performer Pals, main character uses them. After that, Predator Plant Ciphers, these are all anime stuff. After that, you see there's some that's not being filled out. And right after that are the Crestrons, which is a new archetype. And then the Chemical Beasts, another new archetype. After the Chemical Beasts, we have Red Eyes stuff, Cyframe stuff, Gradle stuff, Gradle Slime Jr., and then the Arrow Mage Angelica. These are the old archetype support. And right after that, we have Doki Doki and Torque Tune Gear. What this means that there's no possibility for a Yangzing main deck monster, because we've already started the generic monsters and there's no slots left between the generic monsters and the new archetype monsters. After that, there's a few slots. These are probably going to be generic monsters, such as another fairy tale card. We got Snow White in the Dark Illusions. We'll probably get another fairy tale, I don't know, Cinderella or something at number 34. They could also be rituals. After that, we got the fusions. These aren't very possible for Yang Zing since we're a synchro based archetype. Now after that are the synchro monsters. As you can see, we got 7 synchro monsters in the set. The synchros are also all gone. There was one slot down the bottom which could have been either a old archetype synchro, it could have been a generic synchro, or it could have been an anime Exceed monster, and it turned out to be Ding Long, Origin of the Yang Zing, that we just got. So that slot being opened there before was the reason why getting a synchro monster was not impossible, unlike getting a main deck monster, which was impossible. But anyways, going down past the synchros, we got a bunch of exceeds, and then we get into the spells. Now spells are still possible. Going down to the red eye spell, after that is the ignite spell, after that is the blank spot, and after that is the alien spell. In that blank spot, the Invasion of Venom number 062, that is definitely going to be a spell card supporting an old archetype. So that slot right there could be a Yang Zing card, or it could be, I don't know, a Clifford card or something. But yeah, that is how you read this stuff. 064 also has the possibility, and right after that is Pot of Avidity, which is a generic spell. So under Pot of Avidity, there's not going to be any more spaces for spells for old archetypes. So there's still up to 2 slots for spells supporting old archetypes. Going on to the traps, going all the way down to the Psy-Frame trap, and then there's a blank spot, and then a Clifford trap, and then another blank spot. Again, these 2 blank spots, one of them is definitely going to be a trap supporting old archetypes, and the next one can also potentially be a trap supporting old archetypes. So right now, the only possibility for Yang Zings is getting another spell in the set or another trap in the set. But that's just my quick tutorial on how to read these sets. Of course, I'm not putting my money on it. 2 is already plenty of support in one set. Let's not get greedy, but I'm just pointing out that the possibility of a 3rd card exists in the form of a spell or trap, but not in the form of a monster. Just to summarize it all off, Ginyu Seibo Tinko, Ding Long, Origin of the Yang Zing. It opens up a lot of possibilities. I'm very happy that we got a card like this. People ask for stuff like a Worm Rota or something to increase the overall consistency, but getting this just brings a lot more fun into the deck because this one card opens up so many possibilities. I'm gonna have to go back and start inventing combos again just because this guy came out. I'm going to restructure my whole deck to efficiently summon this guy because it's just that amazing of a card. As soon as the effect gets confirmed, I can start working on these combos. I don't want to start working on combos when there could be some error in the effect, so that the card works in a whole different way than what I thought it would be. That would just be a waste of time. And we got till November till we could play this card anyways, so we have plenty of time. Great addition to the extra deck, but getting to it might still be a problem, especially on turn 1 since we still need to resolve a Jiaotu. If we slow the game down, summon this guy on turn 2 and every single turn afterwards, that could be another possible way to abuse this guy. Running random tuners and random non-tuners in the deck just to summon this guy, even if you use 2 cards, can be another way to go about it, just because summoning this guy is a +2 pretty much. Now another noteworthy thing is power creep is a thing. So this card might seem extremely insane right now, but by the time we get it, this card might be less overwhelming. I mean, just compare it to cards in the same set. Look at the Frog Exceed monster. that they got. Pretty much a rank 2 Cyber Dragon Infinity, but better. So, no, we're competing with cards like that, not cards that are currently meta right now. Now, I haven't put a great heap of thought into it. I'm pretty much just saying what I think about this card as I'm reading it. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about it, what kind of combos you guys can come up with this card, what sort of cards you would want to use to summon this guy, and what sort of synchro monsters you would want to summon with this guy. I better end the video here before I get any more ideas and make this video even longer.